after the mother of the Gaon Mivilna left this world, she came back to him in a dream. And he asked her all types of questions about the afterlife. Eyewitness is amazing to have, even though, of course, he believed and knew every word of the Torah. And he asked her about Gehenom. He asked her to describe Gehenom. And she said to him, Gehenom is a place where mercy does not exist. Simply, it does not exist. Now, it's hard to understand what no mercy exists until you see what the terrorists, Palestinians, did on October 7th. In fact, if you hear about what's finally coming out now from the terrorists themselves that were caught, you realize that whatever you knew is not even sufficient. They literally trained these terrorists, Palestinians, to behead children, to rape little children, and then burn them alive. They actually trained them to do this. This is the same thing as what the Nazis did. In order to select who is going to work with the Jewish people and who's not, they would train them. How would they train them? They'd give them a cat and tell them, remove the cat's head, behead the cat with your own bare hands, in order to eliminate any type of conscience, any type of good that still remains within that person. Because the powers of evil do not have any mercy. And the Satan, he is the Satan, he is the Malach HaMavet. He desires the ultimate evil. Now, all of the things that are in front of a person, whether it's your day-to-day test with money, with immorality, with whatever it is, with even putting on your tefillin or wearing a modest dress, all of these are tests. The more you submit to these tests, the more you fail, in so many words, the more you allow yourselves to simply just give up without even putting up the fight that Hashem knows you can to pass the test, because he's not going to give you a test you can't pass. He's not looking to prosecute against you. He's simply looking to challenge you in order to reward you. But when a person does not even fight, each and every time, they're making more space for the Satan to take over. Now, how can a person fight the Satan? A Satan that's enormous in power and size, a Satan that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him enough power for this particular role that he plays in servitude of God, to the point where the sages say that just like Hashem has made a throne of glory for himself, the Kisei HaKavod, he made a throne of glory for the Satan. Something incomprehensible. And the wife of the Satan, Lamed Yud Taf, you can't even say her name because she's even more powerful than him. And she takes control of anyone that allows any type of immorality into their life. So much so that even the extra seed that is on the bed sheets can be taken control by her to bring more mezikim to the world if the couple did not do the proper preparation of their mind, of their bodies before the act. Literally, she is everywhere when it comes to immorality. Now, how do you fight such a thing? When the Satan is so big, so massive, so powerful, and his ultimate desire, literally, he lusts for a person's neshama. He's the Malach HaMavet. How do you deal with this? The prophet Job, in chapter 13, verse number 15, the Gemara in Masechet Sotah, in the 5th section, brings a verse where Job says, Hen yikteleni lo ayachil. Were he, meaning Hashem, were he to kill me, I would still yearn for him. Now, this sounds fantastic. But the Gemara says, the word lo is spelled two different ways. Lamed Aleph and Lamed Vav. So which one did Job say? Did he say that were he to kill me, lo ayachel, meaning I will not serve him, I will not yearn for him? Or were he to kill me, lo ayachel, meaning I will still serve him? Two completely opposite meanings. Which one did he mean? So then the Gemara answers, well, we can see in his later statements. Chapter 26, verse number 5, where Job says, until I die, I will not renounce. Meaning, nothing in the world could possibly make me renounce Hashem. I'll do everything and anything, including sacrifice my life for Hashem. And the sages talk about the test of Job. It's unlike anybody else. So much so that the Ramban, Nachmanides, writes in the introduction of his commentary to the book of Job, that the suffering that Job suffered took a year. It took a year. It was the most horrible suffering any human being has ever encountered. Lost all of his children in one day, lost all of his, tens of millions or billions of dollars in one day, lost all of his health. Literally, the Satan was given permission to appear as if he controls the world over the life of Job. Everything that he was doing not only went wrong, it was the worst possible wrong. It was literally a personalized Holocaust. But yet, the sages say that at the conclusion of this story of the prophet Job, the Satan suffered much more than Job. How could that be? Why would the Satan suffer? I mean, Job suffered all type of agony, pain, sorrow, emotional, spiritual, mental, every possible pain you can. Satan is an angel. What sorrow? Chachamim say the pain and suffering of the Satan was greater than Job because the Satan was given permission by a Kadosh Baruch Hu to inflict Job in every possible way with all of the things that would cause a person to die, would cause a person to lose his neshama, yet he's not allowed to take the neshama. And the desire of the Satan to take Job's neshama was beyond all comprehension. That's how much he wanted to take it, but he couldn't. So now you'd ask yourself, wait, if the Satan is so smart, why did he do it at all? If his ultimate desire is to take the neshama of Job, and Hashem clearly tells him, you can inflict him with the worst possible pains that would typically kill everybody else, but you can't kill him. You can inflict him with the worst things, but you can't kill him. And if that's your desire, Mr. Satan, why even bother if you can't fulfill your desire? That's because the Gemara says he's evil. The Satan is evil. Meaning that even though he cannot fulfill his ultimate desire, and not fulfilling his desire causes him sorrow, he's so evil, he still wants to inflict. He still wants to hurt Job. He still wants to cause as much damage as possible, even though he himself will be more hurt. This is very similar, if not identical, to all of the terrorists that blow themselves up, saying that they are practicing the Islamic religion, where they talk about jihad, killing themselves in the process of killing Jews. They think this is a good deed. Now, this obviously is the ultimate evil. It's evil to the extent where you see that the Satan lusts for somebody's neshama, lusts for evil so much that even if it causes him harm, he still wants to do it. That's why even Hashem calls him ra, even Hashem calls him evil. Now, the chinuch, about 700 years ago, in mitzvah 452, the prohibition of eating a limb from a live animal. This is prohibited for both Jews and non-Jews. But he clarifies as follows. What is the tam, the thing we learn from this mitzvah of not eating from a living animal? What is one of the things we can understand as humans as a purpose behind this mitzvah? Says the chinuch. The Gemara in Masechet Chulin says that if a person eats both limbs served from an animal and flesh from a live animal, he incurs 2 acts of malkot, because this eating includes 2 separate prohibitions. Now, the injunction regarding the ever min achai, this prohibitions that we mentioned, is repeated in multiple places in the Torah. In Parashat Noach, it's mentioned where it says, "But the flesh with its soul and its blood you shall not eat." And among the underlying purposes of this mitzvah is that so we do not train our souls in the trait of cruelty, which is the most contemptible trait. There is no greater manifestation of cruelty in the world than someone who tears a limb or a flesh from a living creature while it's still alive before him and eats it. See, here, the chinuch is telling us that the underlying purpose of the mitzvah of not eating from a living animal is because this is inherently the ultimate evil. Now, why does Hashem care if we are evil or not? Because the more evil we do, the more we create distance between ourselves and Hashem. And the closer we become with the power of evil that Hashem created, called the Satan. And therefore the chinuch sums it up and says, I've already written several times about the great benefit we receive when we acquire for ourselves positive character traits and distance ourselves from negative ones. For the nature of good is to cling to good. And being that the Almighty, who is good, desires to bestow good, He therefore commanded His nation to choose in the path of good, so that His blessings and kindness will naturally cling to them. See here, without going into the esoteric parts, the chinuch clarifies that the ultimate good, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, wants us to cling to Him, because it is for our good. But you cannot cling to HaKadosh Baruch Hu without fulfilling His Torah and doing His mitzvot. Now, in order for you to be attracted to mitzvot, you have to also be attracted to good. In order to be attracted to good, you have to do good. On the other hand, when a person, as the Rambam says, becomes spiritually sick, where the good becomes bitter and the evil becomes sweet to them, then they no longer want to fulfill mitzvot to the extent where they could even bring themselves to such a low spiritual level where they could literally detest the mitzvot. They could hate the mitzvot. And little by little, commit themselves to more and more evil. Some of the evil would be something that they think is not hurting anybody, like becoming addicted to pornography, not realizing that they are hurting somebody. They're hurting themselves physically. They're hurting themselves spiritually. Certainly they're hurting their marriage. Certainly they're hurting their children. Certainly they're hurting even the people that they're paying watching this pornography, because you giving them money, you're enabling them to make more sins. This victimless crime is full of victims. And with that being said, a person could easily go from pornography to the point of bigger and bigger taboo, hence the reason why all of the serial killers that are studied, whether it's the ones we mentioned in the film Tikkun Abrit, whether it's Bundy or some of the other psychopaths, including the recent psychopath that tried to assassinate Donald Trump, all of them have stated that they're addicted to pornography, without exception. So a victimless crime is full of victims. And of course, the same type of mentality will also justify other evils, such as gambling, such as stealing, such as corrupt business, such as adultery, such as even murder. Why? How could it all go? Because once, the Gemara says in Masechet Shabbat, once you allow the Satan permission to enter your life and follow what he says, today he's going to tell you to make one sin, tomorrow he'll tell you another, the next day he'll tell you another. Before you know it, you'll be an idol worshiper with a degree. You'll become one of these missionaries for Yoshke. And therefore the Chinuch says, if you take part in this evil, you'll be far away from Hashem and close to the Satan. Now this too is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu will happen. Before Moshe Rabbeinu left this world, in Sefer Dvarim, Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, starting with verses 16 through 19, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe prophecy. Hashem says to Moshe, behold, you will lie with your forefathers, but this people will rise up and stray after the gods of the foreigners of the land, in whose midst it's coming, and it will forsake me and annul my covenant that I have sealed with it. So he's already telling Moshe Rabbeinu, even though you're righteous, even though you're going to Gan Eden, just like Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, just like your father, Amram, Tzadikim, these people, they're not always going to be righteous like you left them. In fact, at some point they're going to act as if they're nullifying my entire Torah. As if we didn't have this monumental climatic event of the existence at Mount Sinai. They're going to forsake me. For what? For foreign gods. For man-made gods. For heretical beliefs. And Hashem continues in verse 17, my anger will flare against it on that day, and I will forsake them, and I will conceal my face from them, and they will become prey, and many evils and distresses will encounter it. It will say on that day, is it not because my God is not in my midst that these evils have come upon me? But I will surely have concealed my face on that day because of all the evil that it did, for it had turned to the gods of others. So now write this song for yourselves. And Hashem tells them the solution. What's happening here? Hashem says, I gave you the mitzvot, not for my benefit, not because I need them, but rather because you need them in order to stay connected to me, in order to remain my children, in order to fulfill the covenant that gives you protection, that gives you prosperity, that makes you Jewish. All of these things, when you fulfill them, the nations will fear you. When you forsake them, you're making yourselves into your own enemies. Why? Because when you violate my covenant, you'll end up losing what you took for granted, which is my protection, my prosperity. All of the blessings that you had, it came from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. It did not come from your clever idea on Wall Street or in the technology world. It did not come because you're a good salesman or you're a technology guru. It did not come because you found the right product at the right time or you have a few big customers. It did not come because you have good friends or political connections. No, it came because a Kadosh Baruch Hu decided. But when you forsake my covenant, you're putting yourself in a position where you have become your worst enemy. Why? Because I will eventually conceal my face. You're saying you don't want to pray to Hashem, you don't want to serve Hashem, you don't want to put on tefillin every day, you don't want to keep Shabbat, you don't want to protect your brit, you don't want to be moral according to the Torah, you want to be moral according to society, which is immoral. Then what's going to happen is, if you don't want me there, then I'm going to hide myself. Meaning, I'm going to make it look like an illusion, a deceiving illusion, as if I'm not there, and only the Satan is there. He'll take over. And when I hide my face, many evils and distresses will encounter it, says Hashem. They will become prey. Hashem yishmo v'yatzil. They'll be sitting there in their house, enjoying the nice weather in the early morning hours, or in some dance party on a day they're not supposed to be dancing or a party. They're supposed to be in a dancing with the Torah. They'll be enjoying themselves moments before they become prey for a bunch of animals that hunt them down. They'll become prey. Even after they showed the whole world that they were victims, the whole world will turn them into prey and express how much they hate them without even having a justifiable reason to hate them. They'll become prey and many evils and distresses will encounter it. And on that day, it says that they're going to get to the point where so many horrible things are going to happen. They're going to say, is it not because my God is not in my midst? What does that mean? Where was God during the Holocaust? They're going to get to the point where there's going to be so much evil that they're even going to question, where was God during October 7th? Where was God during the Holocaust. That's how much evil they're going to bring upon themselves. And therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling Moshe Rabbeinu, don't put yourself in a position where you're going to say, oh, I didn't know. Oh, I wasn't sure. I'm telling you, there's a covenant, there's a Torah. And write this song for yourselves in order to remind yourself of this covenant. And this song that the Torah sings in Parashat Vayelech is after HaKadosh Baruch Hu warns us of what happens when he hides his face. Hiding his face in so many words means that he uncovers the face of the enemy and let them have a illusion, if you will, as if they're controlling the world, as if there is no mercy. And anyone that has heard some of the witnesses talk about the horrors of what happened on October 7th in the houses, the details of what they did, or if they watched my lectures about the Holocaust with the details of what the Nazis did, or if they watched our lectures about the Crusades, or all of the other evils that have happened throughout Jewish history, you see that there is times where it seems like only evil exists. And that's when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, that's when I'm hiding my face.